Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. Tonight is Monday, August 7th, 2017. I will be your acting president pro tem this evening. President Knisely will be our acting mayor this evening. I would like to establish a quorum at this moment. We have enough members present, so we are -1. I will be able to vote as an acting member here as well. Before we begin with our regular agenda here, there might need to be an issue here. Go ahead.
President Pro Tem Butler, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you. A motion and a second to amend the agenda specifically.
Would you like to?
Yes, specifically moving the third ordinance behind the first ordinances. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second to amend the agenda this evening. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Thank you. The agenda has been amended. We have a disposition of minutes here. Special session held June 12th, 2017, and regular session held June 19th, 2017. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to accept the minutes and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, everyone. We've accepted the minutes. Moving on to communications. Prior to jumping into full communications, I do want to welcome our newest member of council, Ms. Arian Smedley. Welcome.
Thank you.
We look forward to having you with us. She'll be replacing former Councilmember Cochran and accepting, I believe, all of her positions on the committees, correct? Thank you. Appreciate your service work. Communications from council members. Councilmember Pappy.
I have one, and I received an email regarding the bike trail where it crosses Union and the confusion of the flashing light that we have there. He did receive a notice as well from the city regarding this and rapid rectangular flashing beacons and what you're supposed to do. And my suggestion, because many bike, he gave a specific example of where he stopped. He was on his bike to cross Union. He stopped. A car stopped, but all the other cars seemed to be confused, and there was a really big concern about who should go, and it was one of those situations. And he's talked to other cyclists who also have concerns. What is there is an improvement to warn of that, and that was explained in the email he received to explain it. But I'm wondering if we could do a public service announcement on the website. Maybe we could even do using our little drone machine or something, do something to discuss this in a more specific way in one of the videos that we do to educate the public, because there certainly seems to be a lot of confusion regarding that intersection and who has the right of way and who doesn't. And when again, it's a pedestrian, bike, and then vehicle issue, and we don't want anybody to get hurt. So I thought that this was something we should bring up and have administration respond to in a more of a public service way, just sending this to him, which I can forward to you, Ms. Mosley. But I felt like we need to go above and beyond on this, because it seems like there is a lot of confusion. I don't know if any other council members have that concern. You know where I'm talking about,
yeah.
Obviously. Okay.
We absolutely can, although you oversee the government channel, so I would assume you would direct them to participate and make the video, and they have the drone.
Well, we have that, we have a Facebook page. It could also be put on our city website, but just to discuss this particular issue and what that means, because I don't think the average public understands what to do there.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you.
Councilmember Reisner.
I just wanted to acknowledge I received several emails from constituents over the break, especially in my ward concerning issues with children's safety, drivers, and people not quite obeying the speed limit, that sort of thing. So I wanted to acknowledge those people out there that I have received your emails. I have been talking with some of the people in charge, and just let us know it's on the record.
Thank you, Councilmember. Other comments? Yes, Councilmember McGee.
Thank you, Councilmember Butler. I've received several emails from OU students who are concerned about the Athens transit system, one student was asking whether it would be possible to have a run out to Stroud's Run so students could take advantage of Stroud's. And then some of the other students had actually mentioned that they would like to see extended evening hours this coming year, which would cut down both on drunken driving and perhaps make it a lot safer for people in general if the hours could be extended into either midnight or 2 in the morning, if that could be possible. So it's just something to consider.
Thank you. Other comments? I too received email regarding the pilot program for the parking permit program that Councilmember Pappy has brought forward. I think that's an issue too that might receive comments this evening as well.
I believe everyone on council received that.
Correct. Yes. Any other communications from council members? So moving forward, reports and communications from other elected officials. We'll begin with Acting Mayor Nisley.
Thank you, President Butler. We have 5 items to report on tonight. The 2 that are most immediate is that this evening, beginning at midnight, as it changes from Monday night to Tuesday morning, there's going to be a power outage uptown. That's going to be from midnight tonight until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning on West State Street between Court and Congress, and that area will be closed to traffic. That's from when the power poles were taken down earlier this year, and they're completing the repairs on that. The other thing is a boil order that's fairly extensive that began at 5 o'clock tonight, and it's basically the Wonder Hills area. So we've got a raft of streets that are mentioned. People can go to the city website and look up our announcements, and all the individual streets will be listed, but that is the general area.
That's outside the city.
Speaking of streets, then also we have some closings that will be happening coming up this weekend. We'll have a cruise in on Friday uptown. So that's going to be Washington and State closure. And then also we have Bounty on the Bricks on Saturday, and that'll be Union to Washington area that will also be closed then. And as everybody knows, and citizens have been very patient and also sent a lot of notes saying how much they appreciate all the street improvements going on. We appreciate your patience with this, as we know it's slowed down traffic sometime. We have the Stimson Avenue roundabout that is finishing up the final stages with that. We have paving, repaving that's going on, and if people want to know the exact streets that will be repaved, and also done remilling and crack and seal, once again, they can go to the city website. It's right up front on the Public Works, Engineering and Public Works site. And then we also have the Route 33 project, of which Ohio Department of Transportation is in charge, and that particular East State Street exit off of Route 33 right now is closed, and I believe they're directing people to the far east side exit of East State Street down by Holzer Clinic. So just for people to be aware of that. We also have, and I'm not sure if our government channel has some maps available, but we do have the East State Street details of the improvement that will be listed. Thank you very much, government channel staff. These maps were provided by our Engineering and Public Works and the consulting firm that they're working with, and it gives a real clear idea of the exits and how they will be improved. Onto the East State Street area. There's another map also then that details some of the sidewalk improvements that are going to be made over the next few months. So we're looking forward to that. We do have also, Councilmember McGee had written in earlier to City Administration about bicycles on Court Street, and I do believe that we are moving forward with 2 notices uptown that we're hoping will clarify things for people. The one is, we'll probably say something rather than like push your bike, but walk your bike. And that's going to be new signage on the city streets, as well as, I think, plans for some wraps that will be put around existing, probably utility boxes. Maybe, I'm not sure if it's going to be on the big belly machines or not. And then also the West Union Street area, where we had some confusion about the kiosks going in and the parking meters being removed. We will be having a sign going up directing people to the kiosk. So we'll hope that that will also clarify. And once again, I think the government channel can assist us, just like they have with this map that they put up on the website. They could assist us too with some information about this. Okay. I'm going to mention one other thing first, that we have both city administration and city council members have received 3 notices during our absence from the Department of Commerce, Ohio Division of Liquor Control. And one of these is happened, and I believe it's a name change, it's a transfer, and this was for JS China Panda, and it was Kenny's Panda, and that is 965 East State Street, so that was pretty much just a name change on that one. The other ones that are newer are, one is Athens Pyramids, LLC. That's at 5 Mill Street. That is a new liquor control application for spirituous liquor on the premises until 1 a.m. It's a D3. And they also did a D3A application, so that extends it till 2:30 a.m., the opening on that. Council would have until August 14th, so 1 week from today, if they were so inclined to want to pursue further additional information or comments about this to the Division of Liquor Control. The last one is AVI Systems. This is a food system that's based in Ohio, I believe, and Law Director Eliason was able to obtain some information from the university, because the notice that we received was that this was going to be a new permit, a D5-1 on 10 South Green Drive. And from what we learned of the conversation, it's going to be for, the permit itself is for beer, wine, and liquor. The AVI Food Systems intends to serve beer and wine in Peden Stadium. So, and as the permit stands as it is now, this is something where they can apply for an expansion, and we really don't have the opportunity to comment on that, other than comment within the community on an informal basis. So there's not something that can be filed through Division of Liquor Control about this. But
President Pro Tem Butler and Mayor Acting Nisley, I would like to make a motion on the Athens Pyramids LLC to request from the State Liquor Control Board a hearing here in our county seat of government.
so you would have a motion and need a second on that, and then a vote.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So we do, at the motion, we do have, at the moment, we do have a motion. Is it followed by a second? I'll make a second for the request for the hearing.
I would say, if many of you remember, a few years ago, we did have a hearing on for a liquor permit that was at the farther north, or I'm sorry, farther south on Court Street. This permit is in the block, if I recall, our when we did our hearing before and the law director presented the information and we had the police reports. This is the area of Court Street that has the most assaults and police presence in the hours when alcohol is pretty extensively used. And so I think a couple weeks ago I attended the Town Gown Conference in Oxford, Ohio. And I know that our mayor Patterson has some ideas on how to move forward with some things, but we have many alcohol establishments. At that count back then, if I recall, it was 18 in a 3-block period, 3-block area. So I would just like to move that forward and ask for a vote, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any comments regarding this before we vote?
I would offer on the last tally I did of permits issued in Athens. With our population of 25,000, we have 109 permits.
109.
9. And I'm not sure what the count is now. That was taken, I don't have a date on this, but it's probably within the last year.
Thank you.
And I would say that this is the first I've heard about this for the Pyramid Hookah Bar or what have you. And I do not believe the police chief has had an opportunity to review that. So.
Thank you.
And it is just around the corner. Gordon.
Any other comments? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of requesting the hearing, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
So we have 3 opposed, or 4, I'm sorry. Maybe we'll do a hand count. So those opposed, please signify. We have 3. Okay, and those 4, signify. We have a tie.
Where's Chris?
Typically, the president is the tiebreaker. At the moment, I am acting president pro tem, and I have my vote equals, makes 3 and 3. I'll ask the law director for some guidance.
In this situation, it's a tie, 3-3. So I don't know if there's anything that we can do to break a tie in any manner. So I think it stands as it is.
So your guidance would be that we move forward and leave it as a tie.
There really isn't anything else that we can do.
Thank you.
Can we vote one more time in another week when there are more members?
I'm not sure if the...
It'll be too late.
Okay. Well, it's the point. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
And we do have, bringing up one other topic, changing the topic then to the pool. Councilmember Pappy had asked for an update on the pool, and we did open bids a week or so ago, and the bid that came, we did receive a bid for $6.9 million, and that ends up being within the 10% allowable, and the Board of Controls voted on that, or signed off on that today to approve that, and that was based on information from our law director.
I can give more information on that if you
Thank
like.
you.
The architect's estimate was $6.4 million, and the Ohio Revised Code 153.12 states that it cannot enter into a contract if it exceeds 10% above the estimate. So in this situation, if you added 10% to the $6.4 million, you come in at $7,040,000. There were 2 bids received, and those bids were both above the 10%. However, they were also given the opportunity to either add or deduct certain items. And the way it was analyzed was that certain items were deducted from both, and once all those items were deducted, it did bring it to the point where it was, the winning bid was $6,989,500. So I think that explains how that happened. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Law Director. Any questions for the Law Director?
My only question would be, do we know what they're deducting?
I can tell you what those were. They looked at both of the bids and deducted the very same items from both of the bids. Item 5 was provide stainless steel bike racks in lieu of painted. 7, deduct to install one side in lieu of 2. Slide, deduct to install one slide in lieu of 2. Alternate 9 was custom iron gate at entrance. Alternate 11 was to provide a light broom finish on all P1 concrete. And alternate 12 was black vinyl coat chain link fencing. So those had the opportunity, those items were deducted from both of the bids, and that's how they reached the base bid.
And there was
Thank you.
one additional item, the canopy at the concession was the other item that was deducted.
Thank you for the updates.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right.
That's all right.
8, item 8.
Any other communications from the mayor?
Nope, I think that's it.
Thank you. Reports and communications from the law director.
None.
Thank you, law director. And we also have our auditor present this evening. Any communications from our auditor?
No report.
Okay, thank you. I do have one last communication here, two minor ones. Friendly reminder that there will be paving this week as well. August 8th, 2nd Street and Mound Street are slated to be paved on the 8th. August 9th, West State Street and Bayard and Pratt. Those are on the west side. So those are a few of our scheduled pavings in the near immediate future. I'm also in receipt here of a letter from John Spotforth of 7 Brown Avenue, who wanted it to be known that he included an enclosure complaint against the valuation of real property. So that is also in our possession. Thank you. Any other communications? If none, we'll move forward with our ordinances. As you recall, we amended the agenda earlier this evening, so we will jump into ordinances for second reading. Typically, we read our third reading first, but we will move that to the end of the meeting. Ordinances for second reading, beginning with Ordinance 76-17, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to advertise and accept bids where necessary for construction of the Water Treatment Plant Facilities Improvement Project number 307, introduced by Councilmember Butler. Comments? Ordinance 78-17, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to advertise and accept bids where necessary for the purchase of an educational smoke trailer for the fire department, introduced by Councilmember Butler. Questions or comments on that? Ordinance 80-17, an ordinance vacating a portion of Moore Avenue, aka Moore Street, between Factory Street and Roberts Alley upon petition of the adjoining property owner, Ohio University, introduced by Councilmember Fall. Any questions or comments on that? Yes, Councilmember McGee.
Just one comment. Since this does involve Ohio University, and since it would be coming up for a third reading at the next opportunity, I do want to point out, I believe several members of council have a conflict, and I think that it's the kind of thing that we should all be aware of if we're going to vote, that those conflicts exist if we're either an employee of Ohio University or a spouse is an employee of Ohio University. So I would hope that the council would note that.
Where's that?
Thank you, Councilmember. And for those of you who have questions, we can confirm or discuss it some other time with our law director regarding that. Thank you. Ordinance 81-17, an ordinance granting variances from the Athens City Subdivision regulations to Wanda Cash, 46 Canterbury Drive, to allow a minor lot split, introduced by Councilmember Fall. Any questions or comments? Ordinance 82-17, an ordinance amending Athens City Code, Title 3, Administrative Provisions, to add Chapter 3.12, Efforts to Change Sexual Orientation or Gender Identity with a Minor, introduced by Councilmember Fall. Any questions or comments? Ordinance 83-17, an ordinance authorizing a pilot residential parking permit program introduced by Councilmember Pappy. And I do believe this evening that we may have a few citizens that would like to comment on that. This would be their opportunity. I will kindly remind those that are interested in commenting that we permit that with a 3-minute limitation. So we do have a system here, and we will start the clock after you're prepared to begin. Anyone wishing to comment on the pilot program this evening? Sure, yes, thank you. And please state your name and address, and then, yes, thank you. And then we'll begin the counter after that.
Is it broke? Oh.
Hi, my name is Caleb Brown. I'm a resident here in Athens. Thank you for having me here tonight to speak about this parking permit program. I first heard about the parking permit program in the newspaper a little bit over a month ago maybe, and it seemed like a great idea. I was really excited. I've been having to move my car every day for years, and I know that a lot of other people do, and that's why the idea is to have a program like this. Not only is it annoying to move your vehicle when you don't have to, but it also involves burning a lot of unnecessary fossil fuels that really we can save with a program like this. And I know that City Council has a history of doing environmental work recently, especially with the big belly machines and the new recycling carts. So I know that this is something that's definitely a concern in your mind. However, when I got a copy of the ordinance and read it, I was very disappointed because I realized that I was exempted in 3 separate ways from being able to get a permit. The first one is that there's a limit of 1 permit per address. And I would like to point out that many houses in Athens are occupied by more than 1 adult vehicle owner. So an ordinance like this will lead to probably hundreds, if not maybe even thousands of difficult conversations about which person gets the permit and which people don't. And I feel like it's unfair of City Council to put that burden on the residents of Athens to have that kind of disagreement potential between roommates and other residents in houses. The second issue that I would like to point out is that there's no permits allowed if there's more than 1 off-street parking spot. Similarly, many houses have, for example, 3 adult resident vehicle owners but 2 parking spots, which means that 1 person has to always be parked on the street, or if you don't want to have to move your car all the time so the other person can get out, then 2 people park on the street. But this would not allow people in a house like that, which seems like the perfect candidate to get a permit. Also, parking is only available to residents on streets with 24-hour parking every day. I live on 2nd Street where there's only night and weekend parking, and I park around the corner on Elizabeth Street where it's always empty, but nobody there really parks on the street. So all the people who park on Elizabeth Street live on 2nd Street. So basically, I just want to point some of these things out to you in hopes that either with this pilot program or perhaps when you review the pilot program, you can expand it to be more inclusive of all of the residents in town and also to be able to save as much fossil fuels as possible. Additionally, I would like to point out that the fee should be at a price point to encourage participation. I heard potentially $150, and I talked to a lot of people about this, and pretty much everybody I talked to agreed with all of the things that I was saying. So I just wanted to let you know that this is some things that your constituents are thinking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Kornansky.
Joan Kornansky, 56 Mount Street. I think I have communicated through email or Facebook Messenger with Caleb several times over this issue, and I think it really brings to the forefront that this is an issue. And I'm really pleased that we're on a 2nd reading and it's going forward. because what this will be able to do is to test waters, not only for the residents that are within the pilot program to see how it operates on a small scale, and also how the city administration will be able to move this forward and how it'll interface with how they operate already. So I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question?
Yes, I do have a question, if I might. How do you answer Caleb's assertion that this is basically going to pit townspeople against each other on an issue?
Oh, you don't mean townspeople, you mean perhaps
Residents.
roommates or family members?
No, I mean residents.
Residents.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. That's kind of a very personal thing. Several people on Mound Street, a few of them are rental properties, and some of them suggested that the person that had the longest residency, that would be one way to solve that problem. I mean, people work out social interactions themselves. One of the other suggestions was, well, who moves their car the most? Well, whoever doesn't need their car every day to drive, say, I think one of the tenant residents works over near Ping Center, and he usually drives, so he would be the one that wouldn't necessarily request the permit. So people were interacting on that issue.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, I'm sorry.
I would like to
Mayor's
comment.
office.
Thank you. You know, the point Caleb brings up is indeed one of the issues that we've struggled with, that this becomes a level of preferential treatment for these identified streets. So I think that's legitimate. And I can speak on behalf of the mayor, as we spoke this afternoon. He would really rather go, let's try 48 hours. Let's start there citywide. Let's see if we have a problem. Let's see how 48 hours works across the city. And then if there's no problem there, perhaps that gets expanded to 72 hours. We've said again that this is, even though it's deemed a pilot and what have you, you've heard tonight that how come I don't have access to that pilot? How is this going to work? And perhaps the times have changed enough that we don't have storage parking, and we won't have storage parking. If we ease into it at 48 hours, see how that works, we'll be able to pull that back if it doesn't, and then maybe extend that to 72 hours, and then people are not walking their cars at least every 24 hours.
Thank you, City Service Safety Director.
I have a comment.
Yes, Councilmember.
I had a meeting with the mayor. I guess he's changed his mind from what he said at the meeting a week or so ago, a couple weeks ago, because he mentioned moving forward as a pilot, continuing the 24 hours, and the ordinance would stand as it is. He was familiar with the ordinance. So I'm a little confused, again, with this comment to basically change the entire ordinance to give 48 hours all over the city. That's not what I was understanding. So I am to assume that he will be at our next voting meeting for the third ordinance. Will he be?
He will be here, and in his
Okay.
defense, as he's gone as well to the Howtown Gown Summit and also attended other NLC.
As I did.
He has stated that even the Oxford people have said, you know, this is very cumbersome, doesn't work. We have complaints on a regular basis depending upon the street that you live in and what you can park. That this would be a model to a try as the pilot, would be the 48 hours. But
In my
I'll allow him to
conversation, I also knew that, and I was in Oxford as well, they never had 24-hour parking like we've had. So they never had that. They were starting kind of from scratch with the parking ordinance. So we've had many, many years of understanding what a 24-hour parking law affords for our community. So that would be something I would say that's different from Oxford. I could see if you were starting a parking permit in the first few years, that would be difficult and would be cumbersome and people wouldn't know. But this community is very knowledgeable about enforcement, and we do know the 24-hour. You talk to any long-term resident, the 24-hour parking permit does work. Does it inconvenience people? Yes. And that this is one way that we were looking to move forward in a pilot program to help with some of that. So.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you. Yes, Councilmember.
I'm sorry,
Consis.
and it seems like we've thrown out the whole, our whole operating of council meeting. Is this possible that we could just move this whole conversation to next week during committee? Could we open this up for another discussion before we have the third read?
Sure, that would be.
Is that possible?
Yes, it would be.
If not, it's fine, but.
That's up to the chair of the committee.
Yeah.
Well, and I would want advisement from our law director on that. I don't think we've ever really done that before, so I would need some advice. So we're at second reading, and Member Costas is suggesting we reopen it for conversation.
I don't know that in any time in recent history that we've ever done that.
Okay.
And I don't know any provision in our own local rules for that.
So more debate and discussion could just
Next week during.
could happen during third reading. Correct. Okay.
In
Thank
2
you.
weeks.
During the regular session.
After regular session.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the public as well regarding Ordinance 8317? Typically, that would not be the case yet. But please email us as well, since we'll be reading those too.
Yeah, email.
Thank you. Ordinance. Thank you for your understanding. Ordinance 8617, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into an LPA state project agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for maintenance resurfacing on State Route 56 and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Pappy. Any questions or comments regarding that? Moving on to ordinances for first reading, Ordinance 87-17, an ordinance authorizing the adoption of an agreement with the Athens City Firefighters, Local 3351, and Ohio Council 8, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, concerning wages and working conditions, introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee. Who would like to speak on that this evening?
I shall.
Thank you, sir.
This being the first reading of this ordinance, this is pretty much a pro forma ordinance here. We're putting it on the record. The contracts have already been ratified by the members, but I shall read what we intend to pass. Section 1, the collective bargaining agreement with the Athens City Firefighters, Local 3351, and the Ohio Council 8, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, be and is hereby adopted in full. Section 2, the effective date of said agreement is November 5, 2016 through November 2nd, 2019. Section 3, any ordinance or resolutions inconsistent with the terms of the attached agreement are hereby repealed. Section 4, any ordinance shall be in effect in full force upon passage and approval of the mayor. And there's no reason for suspension or anything. We'll continue this on for 3 reading.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding first reading of Ordinance 87-17? Thank you, Councilmember Reisner. Moving on to Ordinance 88-17, an ordinance amending the 2017 appropriation ordinance, introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. Before I actually read this ordinance, I would like to request a suspension of the rules. The reason for the suspension is that in part of this ordinance there is an appropriation that is vital to the operation for the city, having to do with personnel costs, which actually refers to payroll.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on suspension? We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. We're voting only on suspending the rules. All those in favor of suspending, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. You can proceed.
Thank you. I now will read the ordinance for the first time and then ask for a vote. so it's a good idea that we know what we're actually going to vote for. Section 1, the 2017 Appropriation Ordinance 015016 is hereby amended by decreasing the General Fund Municipal Court 101-106 TC 500 by $2,000 and increasing General Fund Municipal Court 101-106 TC 200-300 by same amount and increasing the appropriations by said amount. The auditor, who's present by the way, is hereby authorized to make the following interfund transfers from Judge's Computer Fund 230 to Clerk's Computer Fund 231, amount $32,000. Section 3, 2017 Appropriation Ordinance 15016 is hereby further amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the following sums: $32,000 to Clerk Computer Fund 231 TC 200-300 for computer supplies and maintenance of the court's case management system, $230,557 to General Fund Other Administrative 101-120 TC 300 for refund checks received from Bureau of Workmen's Compensation, $60,000 to Water Administration Fund 636 TC 100 to cover personnel costs through year-end, and $100,000 to Sewer Administration Fund 636 TC 100 to cover personnel costs through year-end, an increase in the total appropriations by said amount. I now make a motion that we adopt. Right.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I wanted to ask a question.
Yes,
Is that
Councilmember
possible?
Pappy.
Okay.
On the administration funds for water and sewer personnel costs through the end of the year, so was there a change, or I'm just wondering why that wasn't budgeted? Was there an illness, or I'm
Auditor, we care to speak to that?
Sure.
Thank you.
No, just not good budgeting, I would say. Those administrative costs, we actually have three divisions in water and sewer. You all know that. Plant, administration, and maintenance. And we pay people out of all of them. The admin costs are mostly administrators and the utilities billing employees who have their salaries split among water, sewer, and garbage, actually. And so whatever was calculated or changed, sometimes these things are changed in personnel, and we just didn't budget enough. In reality, we probably could have moved money around within that like we are in the court fund because there's no money to appropriate. However, water and sewer are pretty healthy, and we're just going to appropriate the money. It's a lot easier bookkeeping-wise to do that. So I would say the money's in there, but as you know, we can't move money into the different transaction classes without council approval. So we're just appropriating it. There will probably be extra money in some of the other transaction classes at the end of the year. In fact, I'm sure there will. But this just came out. Sometimes it's hard to budget for this because people who, you know, the engineering public works engineer is like 10%, 10%, 10%. The deputy service safety director. I mean, there's small amounts of some people's salaries because they're split at least among three funds, and so possibly the calculations weren't done accurately, or like I said, other changes. So,
Thank you for that
easier.
explanation. I appreciate
If that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Auditor Heck. We're still sitting on a motion to adopt the ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of adopting ordinance 8817, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you, everyone. The ordinance has been adopted. Moving on to ordinance 8917, an ordinance amending ordinance 69-17 authorizing the payment of a prior year expense and declaring an emergency. This too is introduced by Councilmember Reisner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. This is my last ordinance for tonight. As you say, this is we are amending an ordinance. This is the first reading. There's no need for suspension. It reads as follows: the auditor is hereby authorized to expend up to, and this is the part that's going to be amended, strike out $6,258 and $58.17 and be replaced with $6,510.67 from the 2017 General Fund Municipal Court 101-1016 TC 200-300 to pay prior year Chase Bank fees.
Thank you.
That's it.
Any questions or comments regarding this? Thank you. Okay, we are now at the point of our evening agenda in which we had moved things around. We're now prepared to read third reading, Ordinance 7517, an ordinance approving the plan of operation and governance for the NOPEC gas aggregation program for the purpose of jointly establishing and implementing an opt-out gas aggregation program in the city of Athens and declaring an emergency, introduced by all members of council. Again, this is ordinance 75-17. We do have present with us this evening Mr. Eddie Smith, who's the executive director of our local SOPEC. He's kindly offered his time as well to answer any questions or comments. Again, this is up for third reading, and I'm not sure who is going to present this evening.
I can offer some background information.
Thank you.
Because Councilmember Cochran was the person, our council member, who had been attending the SOPEC meetings. Very briefly, and I think I've stated this history before, but if people are hearing it for the first time, SOPEC was formed in 2014, and then in October 2016, SOPEC became a member of NOPEC. And NOPEC has changed their bylaws to enable SOPEC to serve on the board. And what we have been doing this past summer is having an earlier ordinance that I think this particular ordinance refers to, that we had passed 8509 to authorize the City of Athens to establish an opt-out gas aggregation program, and basically authorizing SOPEC to serve as the agent for the City of Athens. And as part of these changes, also in the bylaws with NOPEC, the City of Athens will have a voting board member who will be our mayor. Steve Patterson will be serving on that board. So we've had two public hearings. We had them in May and June. And then this ordinance then is approving this program plan of operation and governance. And so it's a standard form that NOPEC has used and that we will then be entering into and agreeing to work with. And so part of the advantage, as I understand it, for SOPEC and the City of Athens through SOPEC becoming part of this NOPEC organization, is that it's going to give us an ability to operate with NOPEC that has been in operation for 17 years, working in the north section of the state. It's also, as I understand from Executive Director Eddie Smith of SOPEC, NOPEC provides a very strong lobbying presence at the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. And so this, I think, will be a helpful and useful organization for the City of Athens through SOPEC to be affiliated with. There has been some correspondence that there is the possibility of some volatility, so I think customers need to be alert and watching as we move forward with this program to look at their gas bills and to make sure that they're comfortable with becoming part of the system or whether or not they want to consider opting out. So it's part of that whole consumer awareness and watching our utilities. So there's that portion of it too, the residential component, but then also our larger membership with the city with NOPEC. Eddie, do you have any other comments that you want to make? We have your expertise here, and you've taken the time to drive down here tonight, so we appreciate that.
And thank you, Acting Mayor Knisely, for getting us back up to date with everything and describing that in detail.
Sure.
Thank you.
As Acting Mayor Knisely pointed out, there's a lot of benefits with Athens City participating in the NOPEC gas aggregation program through SOPEC. And yeah, I think NOPEC's lobbying presence within PUCO is going to be a tremendous asset for Athens City to make sure that Southeast Ohio is well represented at the state level. There is a lot of volatility in natural gas as a commodity, so as Acting Mayor Knisely said, we should definitely encourage citizens to watch their bills, compare them to the Columbia Gas SCO that's out there and that's available from the PUCO website. One can take a look at that and see whether or not they want to stay in the program or opt out of the program. It's completely flexible. There's also an option for all customers to choose a guaranteed savings plan if they want to. There's a product that you can enroll in. It's included in this plan of governance and operations, and you're guaranteed 2 cents off per CCF, and that's that's for people who don't want to, I guess, take a gamble within the commodity market. So, yeah, my recommendation from SOPEC is to appreciate everyone's attention to all the details.
Thank you. Any questions for Director? Yes, Councilmember.
I've had 2 questions. Basically, one was, is Ohio University involved in any way in this? And then the second question is, are the city schools potential customers for SOPEC then?
Ohio University is not in any way involved with this gas aggregation program or with any of our opt-out or opt-in aggregation programs in any way. To answer your second question and the first also, both the university and the schools would be considered mercantile customers under Ohio law. They have multiple meters or accounts under one name, and that makes them ineligible to participate in an opt-out aggregation program either for gas or electric. So we do offer the opt-in aggregation program, which Athens City has its municipal accounts in, and we'd love to have the schools get involved in something like that, as well as the university. But right now, no.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Other questions or comments? None? For Director Smith? Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
So where we stand at the moment, we've read the ordinance. We had an update from our President Knisely, Acting Mayor Knisely, and we do need a council member to bring this forward with a motion since Councilmember Cochran is no longer with us. Do we have a volunteer? Yes, Councilmember Pappy.
I move that we adopt 7517.
Second?
Thank you. Any other descriptions or support you want to offer?
Well, I would just say to read the beginning, an ordinance approving the plan of operation and governance for the NOPEC gas aggregation program for the purpose of jointly establishing and implementing an opt-out gas aggregation program in the city of Athens and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second. Anything from the mayor's office? No. Okay, thank you. All those in favor of adopting Ordinance 7517, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. We are now back on schedule with our agenda. We are at announcements and other business. We have a motion here to accept the auditor's June 2017 financial reports. Anyone willing to proceed with that for me?
Need a second?
Thank you. We do. There is a motion and a second?
There's been no motion yet?
Yeah, I need a motion. Sorry,
I so
thank you.
move.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We have a motion and a second to Accept the auditor's June 2017 financial reports. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you, everyone. We're moving forward. We do have some other announcements. We have some reappointments. Specifically, we can start with the Historic Preservation Commission. I believe the mayor is requesting 2 volunteers, Guy Phillips and Marianne Reeves, to continue with their appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission. So we have can someone offer a motion?
I move that Mr. Guy Phillips and Ms. Marianne Reeves continue their excellent work on the Athens Historical Commission.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Anyone second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comment? All those in favor of continuing forward with Dr. Guy Phillips and Marianne Reeves, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Thank you for your service work. Additionally, the mayor has 1 new appointment specifically for the Municipal Arts Commission, Ms. Kelly Lawrence. She has expressed interest and has a letter of interest, although I don't know if I have access to that at the moment. I do believe it is available within council chambers or via email at some point. Ms. Lawrence is, I can comment briefly on this from my involvement with the Municipal Arts Commission. She's a long-standing local citizen who's been involved with the arts extensively, is involved with the, I believe, organization as well. I can't think of its first name. Do you happen to remember? Alpaca? Yes, thank you. Alpaca, thank you. Which is a local arts organization as well. She is replacing an empty spot. If we can proceed with a motion there, we can appoint her to that position. I can make a motion. I'll make a motion.
All right.
That Ms. Lawrence be placed on the Municipal Arts Commission.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, everyone. Any other announcements in business? People wishing to have committee meetings next week?
Transportation.
Finance personnel.
Thank you. Yes. Acting Mayor.
And I just wanted to note also that we do have a vacancy on the Community Relations Commission at this point. And if people are interested in serving on that, if they would forward their resume to our Clerk of Council, Deborah Walker.
Thank you. Is there a need for city service safety?
And safety services.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry.
All of.
Full house.
I'll make sure to be here. Anyone else? Our agenda now is at the moment for opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that were not covered on this evening's agenda. So those wishing to speak, please approach the podium. Anyone? None? We are officially adjourned at exactly 8 p.m.
No way.
Thank you, everyone.
Wow.
See you next week.